Hello model railroaders, it's Dave. Welcome back to the layout. All of the dry fitting of the track is done, and as you can see by the blue marks, that is the two-way tape that has been placed down. So I'll just kind of move forward so you can see the track plan, and there's a bit of track I haven't moved off yet that parallels where its actual location will be. Now you'll notice wherever I'm transitioning across from one chunk of foam to the other, that removable bit of track, of course, doesn't have any tape down because it, of course, has to be removed. And then that will allow me to pop up the one piece of foam and slide it out as a whole 8-foot section. And looking down farther, down to here, near the corner, on the transition for this piece, that's the angled part coming out the turnout, and then a section coming from the turnout jumping onto these two pieces of foam here, which I'm not concerned about because the track's actually going to attach those two pieces of foam together. The rough edge of the foam, I've got it foam, having a hard time speaking tonight. Of the foam, I have it about 1/2 inch off the cork road bed, and I can angle that or do something at a later time. I'm not worrying about that now. But I am getting ready to roll on a coat of brown paint, which was this tone of brown, just to get rid of the pink foam. I don't want to risk painting the ties dirt brown, going over and adding the paint later, so I want to get that down, and I'll just actually paint right over top of the two-way tape cover. It'll either stick or it won't, which I'm not concerned about, but the cover will peel off the tape regardless. And then if any of the little bits of paint flakes, I'll just vacuum them up before I stick the track down when I actually fit it. So again, back up here, that's where the turnout is going to be, and here's the turnout there that will bridge those two pieces of foam. So I'll stitch a couple of videos together just to show the progress all in one uploaded video, and we'll be back in a few moments for you, but probably about a good hour for me or more to get all this paint rollered on. So back in a moment. And we're back. So, as was my hope, none of the paint really stuck to the two-way tape covering, the masking on the upside. And here is the painted foam layer. So hopefully there's nothing glaring pink when everything dries, but I'm not too worried. I was just more trying to get a good base coat around where the track was going. That was the primary coverage, and then of course if you got the paint out and everything's already wet with paint, you paint everything. So there we are. So next, I'll bring you back when I start putting track down. So, be back in a moment for you. Hello model railroaders. Well, we're back. As you can see, we've got some wiring dealt with a couple of the turnouts. So the black and the red coming off the relative points on the Y from the turnout over here and over here, and that should give enough power to the relevant pieces of track that are going to be on this particular bit of foam board. Now what I'm going to do, and I've tried something different, I've tried using solid core 18 gauge wire for this to see how it would sit in the foam. I was a little concerned that the 22 gauge stranded wire that I have, that it would be a little too difficult to solder the three wires together without them being twisted, and I wanted to try and keep a low profile. Now the secondary issue about sinking it in, the wiring into the foam, is you either have to cut out with an X-Acto knife and then pick the foam out, or use the hot knife tool to dig a groove. And I tried both. The picking it, cutting it and picking it with the X-Acto, I was concerned of it digging in too deep, and the hot knife, while stinky, definitely made faster work of getting that channel dug. Now, a secondary issue is the foam, or sorry, is with the foam, is dealing with any kind of hot melt glue. The foam and hot melt glue do not get along very well. The glue because of the insulating factor of the foam, which is what you want in normal foam, is that insulation value, it doesn't allow the heat from the glue to cool quickly. And unfortunately, I don't have one of those duster aerosol cans, because the trick is to turn that can upside down, and as soon as you put the hot melt glue down, is to give it a zap of the liquid within that duster can, and that will super cool the glue and hold it exactly where you want it. And it's kind of hard to tell, but possibly in right here, and I'll try to zoom that in and keep it in focus. You can see how that hot melt glue just sunk right in there, and that's a very excessive channel here on the right hand side that it just sunk down into. The droplets of the hot glue. Other locations I was able to get it to stay essentially where I wanted it. Now I don't know if that's what's coming out of the glue gun, you know, that it had more resident time, or maybe it was at the tip with the ones that came out without any real issue. It sat longer at the tip, so it had cooled down, as compared to later on in the trigger squeeze, where it was hotter from being in the center of the glue melt chamber. But either way, foam and hot glue, you need to cool it immediately, and blowing on it with your breath just does not cool it down fast enough. It needs that the kind of cooling that an aerosol will allow, and other well, dead battery. Bye for now. And we're back with the charged battery now. very frustrating when you start a little bit of a clip and it tells you you've got 38 minutes, and then 5 minutes later the screen goes red saying low battery. So hopefully we can continue on. Okay, so from the bench or the table in the work area back to the layout bench. So the piece has been fitted back in, and as you can see here, all I've done is with the drill bit, I've just hand twisted a hole through so that I could stick the wires through, and then I can trim them down to however length I want, and then go ahead and put in one of these connectors, drill a hole through the bench, and then run a line back to my secondary mainline bus line. So that will bring power to the track. So what we have is the 4 rails off of this turnout powered, which will power this strip and the other line. This line I'm not too concerned about because it will be powered off of that turnout there, and then I'm going to also power each of the joints on the other 2 lines on that side of the layout. With these 2 up here powered, that takes care of that spur line and this spur line, and anything past the turnout I'll be probably using an idler car. I'll probably be using an idler car anyway, so I'm not too concerned if the point isn't transferring the voltage to the appropriate track. I'm not really going to worry about it if it doesn't. So, and because this line is powered, and this line is powered, that gives me my 2 outside lines running down there. So overall, I think I can get away with that amount of wiring on this side of the layout, and then what I just discussed about wiring there, and then I'll have to wire in another section down farther. And next, when I go to wire this one, I'm going to try the 22 gauge stranded wire instead of the solid, and I'm going to try just slitting into the foam and then pushing the wire into the gap the slit made to see if that will take the wire appropriately. Kind of like putting a screen gasket in. That's about the closest analogy that I can make. So, using the 2-way tape, as you can see, that is very, very solid on the in holding down the ties, making the adhesive connection to the ties and to the painted foam, or sorry, because that was down there, that's non-painted foam, directly to the foam. So I don't believe I'm going to have any issues with lifting or anything of that nature. So I'm just going to continue on and get this runaround or storage line done, and get things put together up to this point, and then start working my way across the gap and coming down from the the logging run. Now, both of these lines are powered from a connection further up the logging run, so I just kind of have to decide if I'm going to power this line, because that will be local parking, so I may come in off the back side of the track and with two leads and power that bit of a spur line there. But otherwise I've got power coming from this side. I'll have power coming from this end of the turnout here. So, and if I power from there, then just there, 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 and there, that will give me enough power on that section, and then it's just around the turnouts down on that side to make sure that the crossover is appropriately powered and wood is coming up off of the crossover is appropriately powered. So yeah, and then that other section is its own. I'll deal with the power lead drops independently on that. So I'll chain this quick video up with the other ones, and we'll bring you back for progress in a few moments for you, but probably a couple days time at my end. So bye for now. And we're back, my wearers. Alright, so looking at the difference of doing a slit rather than a trench, as you can see, everything tucks in, so everything's flush. Like doing the trench, there are its own issues doing the slit and tuck method, I guess. As you can see, any place where it came more to a point, the foam is just not accepting, especially like right here. The foam is not very accepting of pushing the wire in. It wants to fold the corner bits of the foam over and not allow the wire to dig in down the slit trench. So I can't really say one over another. Definitely no stink of channeling out the where the wire is going with a hot knife, or from a hot knife, but each has its own frustrations. So I'm going to finish this panel with the 22 gauge. I can't remember if I stated that it was 22 or a different gauge, but it is 22 gauge wire, multi-strand. And after reevaluating, instead of having the turnout that was lower down in line, I decided to wire up the turnout that was in the corner coming down from the logging run. It just would work out a lot easier and really take up less wire resources. So I switched that. So I still have this one to do before I can set this back up and continue on. And then somewhere down here I'll do another one, there's the notch out for the riser. So somewhere in here there'll be another, probably 3 black, 3 red, running up to the outside. Now I'll give you a look of what the other half looks like now that it's complete. Yes, that was my head on the on the bulkhead. Luckily I had a hollow spot. That's the downside of working off a little platform underneath a bulkhead. Sometimes you forget where the edge is. But now that I can stand upright. So, track plan looks just like it did before, apart from having to wire this section in. It's ready to go. I did take a piece of rolling stock and roll it all over the joints before I had gone to the point of putting the tape down and such, to make sure that the joints were lining up and were smooth, and everything went back together tight. So I'm very confident that I will have no issues. It'll be nice to get this section powered, and hopefully a week from now that will be the case. I don't know how far I'll get this weekend, but I'm still making progress, so hopefully by next weekend I'll be able to output a video and show you that all this track is done and the buildings are in place, and hopefully driving a loco and some cars down the new track. So at this point I will sign off for this week's video. I hope you've been able to work on your layout or something associated, do something associated with your layout, even going to a train show. Now that the weather's getting more colder and miserably damp and, well, just definitely not summer anymore. So this is Dave, and hope you have a great week. See you in the next video. Bye for now.